Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. So pleased to have in studio with us the Writers of the Future, one of the many winners, Amy Hughes of Bountiful. And she's with us because you have had quite the experience in your writing career. Welcome, or brief, I should say.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the studio. Pleasure to have you here. And the Writers and Illustrators of the Future contest has kind of been described as the American Idol for writers and illustrators, which is pretty cool. There was an award ceremony held in LA. It's kind of like an Oscar-style red carpet event with about 1,000 attendees. I mean, we have some pictures of you attending. You look spectacular, all dressed up. You do here as well.
Thank you very much.
But I mean, what a night! What an evening!
It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. We, you know, the hair and the makeup and the clothes, and you know, it was just the cameras everywhere.
The glitz
it was
and glam.
Oh yeah, yeah. It really felt like you were on the red carpet.
Oh, how exciting! Which rightly you should feel that way, because we were mentioning right before we came on air, this is only your second
story that I have ever completed, yes.
That you've ever completed. That's a big deal as a writer to actually complete something, we know. And you got an award for it. So let's talk a little bit about your history first off. What got you into writing in the first place?
Well, honestly, I've been writing for just about as long as I can remember. I have always loved to read. I learned to read really young, and probably about second grade I started writing stories about magical bunny rabbits going to Mars.
Why don't we have that story?
I know.
I want to hear about that
I know, and I just never stopped. I never really quite finished anything until the last couple of years, but it's something that I've been doing forever.
So this one, The Graver, tell me a little bit about it. Set us up.
Okay, so The Graver.
This is the one she won for.
Yes, this is my winning story, The Graver. The Graver is a story about a man who is living in a world where they have discovered how to capture the energy of a soul when somebody dies. And they feed on it. And they use it for everything from curing cancer to extending life to a really, really great high. And he let his wife's soul be harvested in order to collect her memories to catch the man who killed her. But he's terrified ever since that he might have destroyed her forever. And it's his struggle with the battle of his guilt over what he may or may not have done to his wife.
Oh my gosh, that is fascinating.
Thank you.
That is so cool, and that story is in this book, and this is the anthology.
Writers and Illustrators of the Future.
And this features a lot of stories in here.
Yes, there are 12 winning stories from the winners of the year, and then there are a couple of extra stories from some of the professional judges. Orson Scott Card has an article. I believe Larry Niven and Mike Resnick have stories in this one.
And I should mention too, I mean, illustrators, of course, are here at the back of the book.
Yes.
For each of these stories that won, you were paired with an illustrator?
Yes, so the illustrators, they have their own contest where they will submit their work, and then they get the 12 winners.
So cool.
And then each of the 12 winners are assigned one of the winning stories that they need to illustrate for the book. And I am so in love with my illustrator. He did he did the most incredible job on my story. He captured it.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. I mean, because yours is, you know, the words, but to capture it visually and to have you feel good about that.
Yeah, and that was an experience. Like, he captured details in the picture that I didn't even know were in the story, but once I saw them on the page, I thought, holy cow, that's totally in the story.
Oh, I love it.
It was amazing.
So where and when can we pick this up?
Amazon.com. It's available on pre-order right now.
Okay.
It comes out officially on May 4th.
That's right.
And right now on pre-order, it is a few dollars cheaper. For anybody looking to buy the book. It is a fantastic read. The stories are amazing.
Well, Amy and I were just talking before we went on air how we both love sci-fi in the film. And film, huge lover of X-Files for one, huge fans of that. But when it comes to writing, how would you describe science fiction writing? What sets it apart from, say, fantasy? Because it's kind of blurry, I feel like sometimes.
There is a blurry line, because when you look at something like Star Wars, it really is kind of a science fantasy, because you've got the spaceships, but you've got the magical force. Typically, if there's more science, it gets categorized into the science fiction aspect. If there's more magic, it gets you know, shuffled into fantasy. But once you start getting into things like, you know, steampunk and other things, like, it really starts getting to be a really blurry line between the two, which is why in the bookstores they're usually together.
Ah, okay. And this is the first time that you entered?
This is my very first entry into the contest. Wow. Yes.
Second completed story, first time entering. Yes. I hope that you stick with this.
I am planning to. I'm really enjoying it.
That is wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about some of your inspirations and influences. Who is it that you're like, oh, I love their style, or oh, I love those stories? What kind of has influenced you along the way?
Well, I grew up reading a lot, and I was the kid that used to hide under the stairwell in high school. Like, I would cut class to go and read under the stairwell.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Other people did cool things, like go to the mall. Yeah, no.
Whatever, reading in the closet is totally acceptable.
Yeah, so I read just about everybody. I think some of my favorites over the years have been Ray Bradbury. Andre Norton was a huge one for me. Anne McCaffrey with The Dragons of Pern. Those were some of my absolute favorite memories.
That's wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about the mentoring process of the winners that you guys were able to go through. How did that work?
So the winners are flown out to LA for a week-long workshop, and it's a pretty incredible experience. They bring you out for the whole week, and they bring out all kinds of different editors and agents and writers, professionals in the field that have been in the field forever, and they spend the entire week teaching you. The first half of the week we had Tim Powers and Dave Wolverton teaching class, probably I think 10 hours a day. And that was just a phenomenal experience. Later in the week, they brought in Larry Niven, Mike Resnick, Rob Sawyer. They brought in Tom Doherty for a couple hours. He is the one who started Tor Books, which is one of the biggest sci-fi fantasy book lines in the world. And that was an incredible experience to be able to get to know him.
And a little bit of your background, because you studied English,
yes,
right? How would you compare what you learned in college to this mentoring experience?
To be totally honest, I think I learned more in the week than I did in my first 2 years of English degree.
Still go to college.
Still go to college, yes.
But that's amazing when you're surrounded by that many creative minds, people that have actually done it.
Well, they have, and that's the thing, they've actually done it, right? And so sometimes when you're in college, and I really do credit probably 75% of my ability to write to the time I spent in my English degree, but many of your teachers in college haven't actually published, and so there's questions they don't know how to answer about how to make contacts and how to, the process of finding an agent or finding an editor. Often they haven't done it. Now, that's not always the case, but here these are people who've built their entire career around it, and you get to ask questions there's nowhere else to go to ask.
Well, tell me a little bit about the parameters and the rules for entering something like this.
Well, the contest runs in 4 quarters a year, and it's pretty simple. You write a story and you send it in. It has to have some sort of science fiction or fantasy element to it. They tend to try to keep the rating of the stories about PG-13 or less, so that it can be read widely.
Sure.
And I think the word count limit is about 16,000 words, which is a pretty big story. That would be probably 50, 60 pages.
Okay.
So, it's pretty big for, just about any range you want to write. And you send it in, and that's about it. It's that simple. There is a forum on writersofthefuture.com that you can go and join, and it is filled with past winners and hopeful winners, and giving each other advice and helping each other along the way. It's a fantastic resource.
Wonderful. And last of all, leave us with some of that as someone who I would say, you've been doing this all your life, but when it comes to being widely recognized for it, this is still newer to you. What advice would you give to those who are looking to make a mark, to get out there? Because as we mentioned, it's hard to finish something when it comes to writing.
It is, and that's the biggest thing. Learn to finish, learn to finish. And that was my biggest thing. Learn to finish, and then learn to send it out. Have the confidence to send it out. Probably one of the biggest things that a young writer can do is join some kind of a critique group, whether in person or online. And the forums are a great place to find a critique group for that, so that you can get used to getting the feedback that you need that's going to be able to improve your work. And that's often one of the scariest parts for a writer. It's just learning to take the feedback.
Like, here, what do you have to say about it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
To remind folks too that they can go online to Writers of the Future to find out more. We'll toss up the website here, and yeah, you can purchase the book itself in next week.
Next week, about a week and a half.
A week and a half out. Yep. Wonderful. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
So exciting. Thank you for being with here this morning. Amy Hughes with the Writers of the Future, one of the winners here with us in studio. And it is 38 minutes after the hour. When we get back, it's Friends of Animals Utah.